Commander Hannah Park stood frozen at the edge of what used to be her property. Where her family's traditional home had once stood, a strange metallic structure now gleamed in the afternoon sun. Its polished surfaces reflected the light in ways that hurt her eyes, and occasional pulses of blue energy rippled across its curved walls. "This can't be right," she whispered, checking the coordinates on her device again. But the numbers matched perfectly. This was definitely her family's land, or at least it had been. Hannah had spent the last 5 years commanding the ESS Pathfinder on a deep space exploration mission. Communication with Earth had been limited to essential updates only. Nothing in those updates had mentioned that her home might be at risk. She pressed her palm against the unfamiliar gate that now blocked the entrance to her property. A sharp buzz made her pull her hand back quickly. "Property access denied. Biological signature not recognized," announced a mechanical voice. "This is my home," Hannah said, knowing the automated system wouldn't care but unable to stop herself. "Incorrect. This property belongs to Diplomatic Envoy Tahoe of the Dorum Confederation," the system replied. Hannah took a step back, confusion turning to anger. The Dorum had only established formal relations with Earth 3 years ago, while she was in deep space. How could one of their diplomats now own her family home? She made her way to the local government office, where a tired-looking clerk named Jin looked up her property records. "I'm sorry, Commander Park, but everything seems to be in order," Jin said, turning his screen so she could see. The property was legally transferred to Envoy Tahoe 14 months ago under Article 7 of the Earth-Dorum Treaty. "What's Article 7? Hannah asked, leaning closer to read the screen. "It allows for property transfers in cases of abandoned homes in areas of special diplomatic interest," Jin explained. "Your extended space mission qualified your home as temporarily abandoned." Hannah's face flushed with anger. "That's ridiculous. I was on a government mission. How can they call that abandonment?" Jin looked uncomfortable. "The treaty was signed after you left Earth. Many people are still learning about all its provisions." Hannah spent the next 3 days staying at a military base while trying to reach anyone who could help. Each conversation left her more frustrated than the last. "We understand your situation, Commander," said Director Yoon from the diplomatic court, not looking like she understood at all. "But the treaty is new and delicate. We can't risk our alliance with the Dorum over one property dispute." "It's not just a property," Hannah said, trying to keep her voice steady. "That land has been in my family for generations. My great-grandparents built that house when they came from Korea. 4 generations have lived there." Director Yoon's expression softened slightly. "I sympathize, but legally, our hands are tied." The transfer followed all proper procedures. That evening, Hannah sat in her temporary quarters looking at old family photos on her tablet. There was her grandmother tending the cherry trees in the garden, her father building the small pond where she had spent summers catching frogs as a child, her mother on the porch swing, smiling at the camera on the day Hannah left for the Space Academy. A knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. A young lieutenant stood outside with a tablet in hand. "Commander Park, this just came for you. It's marked urgent." Hannah thanked him and took the tablet. As she read the document, her eyes widened in disbelief. It was a legal notice. Not only had Envoy Tahoe taken her home, but he was now suing her for what the document called spirit claim violation. According to the notice, her continued emotional attachment to the property was creating disruptive energy patterns that were interfering with Tahoe's harmonious occupation of the space. Hannah read the document 3 times, trying to make sense of it. The Dorum were known to have some psychic abilities, but this was absurd. How could she be sued for simply missing her home? The notice demanded she appear before an interspecies tribunal in 2 weeks. If she failed to appear, judgment would automatically be entered against her, and she would owe Tahoe substantial compensation. Hannah set down the tablet and looked out her small window at the stars. Something wasn't right. Nobody would go through this much trouble just for a house. There had to be more to the story, and she was going to find out what it was. "You picked the wrong human to mess with," she said quietly, already planning her next move. Hannah couldn't sleep. The lawsuit from Tahoe kept her mind racing with questions. She got up and started researching everything she could find about the Dorem and their legal system. The military database had limited information about Dorem culture. They were a species that valued both technology and spiritual connections. They believed energy patterns from living beings could affect physical spaces. This seemed to be the basis of the spirit claim violation Tahoe accused her of. "This is insane," Hannah muttered as she read. "How can I violate someone's rights just by thinking about my own home?" The next morning, Hannah visited her friend Sunwoo, who worked in the Earth Dorem Relations Office. "I need to see the full treaty," Hannah said, "not just the summary they give to the public." Sunwoo looked nervous. "Those documents are classified, Hannah. I could lose my job. Please, my family home is at stake." After a moment, Sunwoo nodded and led her to a secure room. "You have 20 minutes while I get coffee." Hannah quickly searched through the treaty documents, looking for anything that might explain Tahoe's real interest in her property. Near the end of a technical appendix, she found it. A geological survey map of Earth areas with high concentrations of a mineral called novanite. Her family's land was marked as one of the richest deposits on the planet. Hannah did a quick search for novanite and found it was a rare mineral that could amplify psychic energy. For the Dorem, it was incredibly valuable. For humans, it had seemed like an ordinary rock with slight magnetic properties. When Sunwoo returned, Hannah was waiting calmly as if she had found nothing important. That afternoon, Hannah visited the university geology department. Professor Lee, an old friend of her father's, was surprised to see her. "Novanite. Yes, it's quite interesting," he said after she asked. "We only recognized it as a unique mineral about 6 years ago. Before the Dorem arrived, we had no idea of its special properties." "Is it valuable?" Hannah asked. "To the Dorem. Extremely. They use it in their psychic technology. It's like gold, uranium, and diamonds combined in terms of value to them." Hannah felt a cold certainty settle over her. "And the deposit under my family's land." Professor Lee looked surprised. "How did you know about that?" "It's one of the purest veins we found. Goes at least 300 meters deep." Now Hannah understood. Tahoe hadn't wanted her house. He wanted what was beneath it. As she walked back to her temporary quarters, a figure stepped out from between two buildings. Hannah reached for her sidearm out of instinct, then stopped when she saw it was a female Dorem. The alien was shorter than Hannah, with pale blue skin and large expressive eyes. She wore the simple clothes of a lower-ranking diplomatic worker. "Commander Park." The Dorem asked in slightly accented English. "My name is Minji. I need to speak with you." Hannah looked around to make sure they were alone. "About what?" "About Envoy Tahoe, and why he really wants your land." They went to a small coffee shop where Minji sat with her back to the wall, constantly checking the door. "I work in the records office at our embassy," Minji explained. "Tahoe doesn't know I'm here. If he did, I would be sent back to our homeworld in disgrace." "Why are you taking this risk?" Hannah asked. Minji's eyes darted around the room before settling on Hannah. "Because what he's doing violates our most sacred principles. Even before the treaty with Earth, Tahoe discovered the novanite deposit under your land. He manipulated the treaty negotiations to include the property abandonment clause specifically to target your home." "And the lawsuit?" Hannah asked. "Is that really a thing in your culture?" Minji nodded. "Spirit claim violations are serious in our system, but they require actual interference. Tahoe is claiming your emotional connection to your home is disrupting his energy patterns, but that's a lie. He just wants to drain the novanite without interference. Why would he need to sue me for that? He already has my property." "Because of how the extraction works," Minji explained. "Novanite mining creates energy disruptions that humans might notice. If he wins his case, You'll be legally forbidden from coming near the property again. No human would be allowed to monitor what he's doing. Hana sat back, processing this information. This is about more than just one mineral deposit, isn't it? Minji nodded. If Tahoe succeeds, it creates a precedent. Other Doram could claim human properties with valuable resources. This case is more important than either of our governments are admitting. Thank you for telling me this, Hana said. But how can I fight him? I don't know anything about Doram law. Minji slid a small data chip across the table. You'll need this. It contains our legal codes and the case histories of spirit claim violations. I've highlighted the sections that might help you. Hana took the chip, hope rising in her for the first time since she'd returned to Earth. Why are you helping me? Because, Minji said, not all Doram are like Tahoe. Some of us believe true harmony between our species is possible, but not if we begin with deception. Hana spent 3 days studying the information Minji had given her. She hardly slept, focusing entirely on understanding Doram legal concepts. The language was strange, filled with terms about energy patterns and resonance fields that had no direct human equivalent. On the 4th day, she called her brother Jiho, who worked as a corporate lawyer in Seoul. You're going to countersue an alien diplomat. Jiho's face on the video screen showed complete disbelief. Hana, this is crazy. Maybe, she admitted, but I found something interesting in their legal code. The Doram have this concept called ancestral bonding. It's like a spiritual connection to land through family history. And how does that help you? Hana leaned forward. Our family has lived on that land for over 200 years, 4 generations, according to Doram law, that creates what they call a deep resonance pattern. It's actually sacred to them. Jiho still looked skeptical. If that's true, why did they let Tahoe take it in the first place? Because he never mentioned it. The treaty was with human governments who don't recognize these concepts, but the Doram's own highest court does. The next day, Hana filed her countersuit. She claimed ancestral resonance priority over Tahoe's more recent legal claim. It was the first time a human had ever used Doram's spiritual concepts in a legal challenge. News of her unusual approach spread quickly through both human and Doram communities. Many humans thought she was wasting her time. Some Doram were offended that a human would use their sacred concepts, but others were intrigued. A small group of Hana's fellow space officers took leave to help her prepare her case. Captain Do-yeon offered his family's lake house as a quiet place for her to work. Lieutenant Suman, who specialized in communications, helped spread her story across social networks. You're becoming quite famous, Minji told her during one of their secret meetings in a park. Tahoe is getting worried. He never expected a human to fight back using our own concepts. Is he planning anything? Hana asked. He's trying to rush the hearing date, hoping you won't be prepared. And he's bringing in experts from our homeworld to testify that humans can't possibly form true resonance patterns. Hana nodded, taking notes. What about physical evidence? Do I need to prove the Novanite deposit exists? That would help, Minji said. But be careful. Tahoe has powerful friends in both governments who don't want the treaty disrupted. The next day, Hana visited Professor Lee again. I need proof of the Novanite deposit, she explained. Something I can present in court. The old geologist looked troubled. That's strange. All our survey data for your property has been classified. I tried to access it yesterday and was denied. Someone doesn't want that information public, Hana said, her suspicions growing. Professor Lee thought for a moment. We did an initial survey before the classification. I kept backup data at home. It's not as complete, but it confirms the deposit exists. That might be enough, Hana said. As the hearing approached, Hana received support from unexpected places. A group of Korean elders held a ceremony on public land near her former property, demonstrating traditional connections to ancestral spaces. Several Doram cultural scholars released a statement supporting the validity of human ancestral bonds. 2 days before the hearing, Hana received a message from Director Yoon, requesting an urgent meeting. "Commander Park," the director said when they met, "I strongly urge you to drop this countersuit. It's creating diplomatic tensions." "Is that a direct order?" Hannah asked. Director Yoon hesitated. "No, but I must warn you that pursuing this could affect your military career." "With respect, Director, this is bigger than my career. If Tahoe wins, it creates a precedent that could affect thousands of human properties." The director studied her for a long moment. "You know about the Novanite?" "I do." "Then you should also know how valuable it is for Earth-Dorum relations, the technology exchange alone." "Gained through deception isn't a real alliance," Hannah interrupted. "If the Dorum want to mine Earth resources, they should negotiate honestly." Director Yoon stood up. "You're playing a dangerous game, Commander." "No," Hannah replied. "I'm just playing by their actual rules, not the ones they're showing us." After the director left, Hannah received another message. This one was from Admiral Kang, her former commanding officer. "I've been following your case," he wrote. "The Pathfinder crew stands with you. We're taking leave to attend the hearing. Some things are worth fighting for." That night, Hannah couldn't sleep. Tomorrow she would face Tahoe in the Interspecies Tribunal. She was one human going against a powerful alien diplomat with centuries of experience. But she wasn't alone. As she looked at the messages of support filling her inbox, Hannah realized she was carrying something powerful into that courtroom. The human capacity to adapt, learn, and stand together against impossible odds. The Interspecies Tribunal was housed in a strange building that blended human and Dorum architecture. Curved walls of normal concrete met sections of the shimmering blue material the Dorum favored. The main chamber had a high ceiling with lights that pulsed gently in patterns that Hannah now recognized as Dorum comfort signals. Hannah sat alone at her table. She had chosen to represent herself despite offers of help from human lawyers. Across the room, Tahoe was surrounded by 5 Dorum legal advisors. He looked confident, occasionally smiling at Hannah with an expression that seemed to say she had already lost. The 3 judges entered, 1 human and 2 Dorum. The human was Judge Kim, known for her expertise in international law. The Dorum judges were older aliens with pale blue skin that had faded to almost white with age. "This tribunal is now in session," announced Judge Kim. "We are here to consider the unusual case of Commander Park versus diplomatic envoy Tahoe. This is the first time a human has filed a claim of ancestral resonance priority. Commander Park, are you certain you wish to proceed without legal representation?" "I am, Your Honor," Hannah replied, standing straight in her formal military uniform. Tahoe spoke next. "This proceeding is a waste of the tribunal's time. Humans cannot form true resonance patterns. They lack the biological structures to create energy bonds with spaces." The older Dorum judge tilted his head. "That is precisely what this case will determine, Envoy Tahoe. Let us proceed." Tahoe's legal team presented first. They showed complex energy readings and diagrams of Dorum brain structures. They argued that humans lacked the neural pathways to form the deep connections to places that Dorum could. "In fact," said Tahoe's chief lawyer, "Commander Park's continued emotional fixation on the property constitutes a hostile energy pattern that interferes with Envoy Tahoe's rightful connection to his legal property." When it was Hannah's turn, she approached a display screen at the center of the room. "I am not a scientist or a legal expert," she began. "I am a space commander who returned home to find my family property taken through a treaty clause specifically designed to target it." She displayed Professor Lee's geological survey. "This is why Envoy Tahoe wanted my land. A rich deposit of novanite that extends deep underground." Tahoe's team erupted in objections, but Judge Kim silenced them. "The tribunal will consider all relevant factors, including motivation." Hannah continued, showing old family photos. "My great-grandparents built our house with their own hands. 4 generations of my family lived there, celebrated there, mourned there, and added their energy to that place." She turned to face the Dorum judges directly. You believe energy patterns can be formed between beings and spaces. I agree. But those patterns don't require special Dorem biology. They require time, connection, and care. From her bag, Hannah pulled out a small box. This contains soil from the garden my grandmother planted. For 200 years, my family has mixed our sweat, our tears, sometimes our blood with this earth. If that doesn't create a resonance pattern, I don't know what does. The older Dorem judge leaned forward with interest. May I? He asked, reaching for the box. When he touched the soil, his eyes widened slightly. He passed it to the other Dorem judge, who had a similar reaction. Tahoe stood up angrily. This is manipulation. Humans cannot form true resonance bonds. Yet I sense something in this soil, said the older Dorem judge. Something familiar yet different from our own bonds. The hearing continued for hours. Hannah presented evidence of her family's long connection to the land. Tahoe's team argued that legal transfer outweighed emotional attachment. The turning point came when Minji entered the chamber. All Dorem in the room turned to look at her. I request permission to testify, she said formally. Objection, shouted Tahoe. This witness was not on the approved list. I will allow it, said the older Dorem judge, surprising everyone. Minji took the stand and faced the judges. I am Minji, junior clerk in the Dorem embassy. I have first-hand knowledge that Envoy Tahoe discovered the Novanite deposit before the Earth-Dorem Treaty was finalized. He specifically designed Article 7 to target Commander Park's property while she was on her space mission. The chamber erupted in whispers. Tahoe's face darkened with anger. Can you prove this allegation? Asked Judge Kim. Minji nodded and handed over a data device. These are copies of Tahoe's personal communications with mining interests on our homeworld. He discussed the Novanite deposit and his plan to acquire the park property over a year before the treaty was signed. The judges reviewed the documents while Tahoe's legal team huddled in urgent discussion. Furthermore, Minji continued, I have studied human connections to ancestral spaces. What humans lack in our neural receptors, they compensate for with their remarkable capacity for emotional memory and cultural continuity. Commander Park's connection to her family land is real by any meaningful standard. When the day's session ended, nothing had been decided yet, but as Hannah left the chamber, she noticed something had changed. The human observers looked hopeful. Some of the Dorem were looking at her with new curiosity and respect. Admiral Kang was waiting outside with several officers from the Pathfinder. You did well in there, he said. Whatever happens tomorrow, you've already changed how they see us. Hannah nodded, exhausted but determined. That's the thing about humans. We're full of surprises. The final day of the hearing brought a tense atmosphere to the tribunal chamber. Word had spread about Minji's testimony, and now the room was packed with observers from both species. Reporters stood in the back, their cameras tracking every movement. Hannah arrived early, sitting quietly at her table and reviewing her notes. Across the room, Tahoe's team seemed less confident than before. Tahoe himself kept glancing at the entrance, perhaps wondering if more surprises awaited him. The judges entered and the room fell silent. Before we continue, said the elder Dorem judge, this tribunal has reviewed the evidence presented yesterday. We have verified the authenticity of the communications provided by Clerk Minji. They'd raised serious concerns about the circumstances surrounding the acquisition of Commander Park's property. Tahoe stood up. With respect, these personal communications have no bearing on the legal transfer. The treaty provisions were approved by both governments. Judge Kim fixed him with a stern look. Treaties negotiated in bad faith are subject to review, Envoy Tahoe. But that is not our primary concern today. We are here to rule on Commander Park's claim of ancestral resonance priority. The younger Dorem judge spoke next. We have conducted our own energy reading of the soil sample provided by Commander Park. The results are unexpected. A display screen showed a swirling pattern of colors that Hannah didn't understand, but the Dorem in the room seemed amazed by what they saw. While different from Dorem resonance patterns, the judge continued, There is clearly a sustained energy signature consistent with long-term habitation and emotional investment. Tahoe's legal team whispered urgently among themselves. The mood in the room had shifted. Judge Kim addressed Hana. "Commander Park, do you have any final statements before we deliberate?" Hana stood, looking not at the judges, but at the mixed audience of humans and Doram. "When I was exploring deep space, I learned that different species may look and think differently, but certain things remain constant across the universe. The need for home, the importance of truth, the power of connection." She turned to face Tahoe. "This case isn't just about one piece of land. It's about how we build relationships between our species. If we begin with deception and exploitation, what kind of future are we creating?" Hana looked back at the judges. "My family's connection to that land isn't just about ownership. It's about legacy, memory, and belonging. These concepts may translate differently across our cultures, but I believe they exist in all of us." After a brief recess for deliberation, the judges returned. The human spectators leaned forward in anticipation. The Doram remained perfectly still, their large eyes fixed on the judges. "In the matter of Park versus diplomatic envoy Tahoe," began Judge Kim, "this tribunal has reached an unanimous decision." The room held its breath. "We find in favor of Commander Park on all counts." A rush of whispers filled the chamber. Hana closed her eyes briefly, relief washing over her. "Furthermore," continued the elder Doram judge, "we order the immediate return of the property to Commander Park and require compensation for attempted exploitation of legal disparities between our species." Judge Kim raised her hand for silence. "This case establishes an important precedent in interspecies law. We recognize that different species may form different types of connections to places and spaces, but these differences do not make one claim inherently superior to another. The Earth-Doram Treaty will require revision," added the younger Doram judge. "We recommend that Commander Park serve as a consultant to ensure fair provisions regarding property rights." As the formal proceedings concluded, reporters rushed forward to question Hana. "Commander Park, how does it feel to be the first human to win an ancestral resonance claim?" Hana considered her words carefully. "This victory isn't just mine. It belongs to everyone who believes that relationships between species should be built on mutual respect and understanding." 3 months later, Hana stood on her family land again. The Doram structure had been removed, and construction workers were laying the foundation for her new home. She had designed it to honor both her family's traditional style and include some Doram architectural elements as a symbol of genuine cooperation. Minji stood beside her, now officially appointed as a cultural liaison to the human space program. "The treaty revisions are almost complete," Minji said. "The Park Doctrine is now a core principle in all new negotiations." Hana smiled at the term that had been coined for the precedent her case established. The principle that interspecies relations must account for both the similarities and differences in how beings connect to their worlds. "Tahoe was recalled to our homeworld," Minji continued. "But there's something you should know. Not all Doram wanted the Novanite for themselves. Some of us believed it could be shared, researched together." "Maybe it still can be," Hana replied, "just not through deception." As the sun set over her land, Hana felt the weight of the past months lifting. Her fight had accomplished something more important than reclaiming her home. It had created a foundation for honest cooperation between species. A small step, perhaps, but in the vastness of space, even small steps could lead to remarkable journeys. She picked up a handful of the soil her grandmother had once tended. Some connections, she thought, transcended biology, language, and even the space between worlds. That was the true lesson of humanity that she had brought home from the stars.